I don't know why we've got that design going on. This is not Patriots beat, but you know what? We do love those guys over there. We'll figure that one out. But it is Chiefs week. The Patriots coming off a surprise road win over the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're taking on the Chiefs, who have actually just won one of their past 4 games, which doesn't seem very Chiefs-like, coming off back-to-back losses. I think this is a game that could sneakily be a little closer than people think, but we're going to see, and obviously we're going to get some strong opinions from my guest. Real quick reminder, this show is brought to you by our fans, our pals over at FanDuel and SeatGeek. We're going to talk to them in a little bit, but first, I want to hear from my friend Daniel Harms, who joins us to talk some Chiefs. He's a film analyst for RGR Football on YouTube. Great channel. Seriously, check it out. He writes for NFL33.com, and he's a fantasy football content creator for Football Guys. Daniel Harms. Daniel, how you doing, brother? Good to have you on.
Thank you, man. Appreciate the intro, and I'm feeling much better now. The pre-show stressed out that I was like at an all-time high with getting my daughter done with her class, getting here, and then pulling the clips up, which I should have had prepared. I'll be honest, but I'm doing great. Glad to be here, man.
Hey, man, it's okay. Honestly, I'm the same way. I feel like I'm always a little frantic before these things, but it's only because I get excited. I get to talk to such awesome people like you, so totally fine. Before we get into the film clips, this is Film with Friends, so we like to talk about all the X's and O's, that kind of stuff. But first, quick Q&A, because these are two franchises that are in places I don't think a lot of people expected to start the season, much less even in recent history. So we'll start with your perspective on the Patriots. From an outsider's point of view, like you watch this stuff, you know what's going on around the league. I love your perspective. I love when you're hitting me up with your opinions on what's going on with the Pats. From what you've seen, how did they get to the point where they are now, where they go into the season, everyone's excited about Bill O'Brien, hoping that maybe he'll finally be able to turn the offense around after a disastrous 2022. Things turn out even worse than we've ever seen in the Mac Jones era or the Bill Belichick era. So what happened there?
I mean, I'll be honest. I go back to what I had you on my show at NFL 33 to talk about the Patriots before the season. And we were both really optimistic about what the Patriots could look like. And I'll be honest. The Chiefs and the Patriots aren't that far apart in terms of what's plaguing them this season. The difference is that the Chiefs have Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and Travis Kelce. They put their faith in offensive weaponry that is not fulfilling standards. And that includes Bill O'Brien, who is not really doing the best job with Mac Jones that we thought, but also Mac Jones has got no confidence. He's got no ability to get into a game because not only because he's been benched multiple times this season, because he's unable to function. I guess I really don't know 100% in the NFL offense. I think that his first season under Josh McDaniels was a great triumph. I think they were a really good offense. They got him the best out of him. But since he's left, like, what are we doing? I don't really know what's happened since Josh McDaniels left. That can't be the key, right? Like, I don't feel like that can be the one of one solution to the problem. So I see, like I said, a lot of the same similarities, putting faith into the weapons. And unfortunately, Juju Smith-Schuster's been in and out of lineup all year with injuries. I mean, you go back 2 years ago, they traded up for Tyquan Thornton, who I had a day 3 grade on myself. Yeah. So that one was a head scratcher. And I mean, you look at the Chiefs, who traded down with the Patriots in that same spot to get Sky Moore. Like, they both drafted wide receivers 11 picks away from each other.
Something like that was pretty close. Yeah,
it was close. And neither of them have lived up to their expectations. So, and you look on the defensive side, I mean, the last month, the Patriots have been incredibly good on defense. And I understand that they've also played some offenses that you can say that, well,
it's always that asterisk. Yeah.
It's always the asterisk, right? It's always there. But I mean, schematically, I think Bill Belichick still got it. Like, they're functioning fantastic. I love that they have like this entire situation on their defensive line that they can just switch out an entire defensive line, and they do completely different things. You know, for run defense, pass rush, they have all of that working. And even without Christian Gonzalez, who was so good. He was so good. They're still playing incredibly well on the back end. You can see how they squeeze deep routes and force quarterbacks to really makes them uncomfortable. They want it. They have to check the ball down, or if you get lucky, you get an intermediate route. They rally, they tackle. They make it tough to move the ball down the field, as we've seen. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is 2-2 against the Patriots for a reason. This is not just because, they get lucky or whatnot, or Tom Brady just comes in and throws 40 burger on them. No,
Right.
the defense does a really good job of stymieing, forcing the Chiefs to play with their left hand, which right now feels like the entire season has been them playing with their left hand. So looking at, again, the Patriots, it really is a lot of the same similar things where you have these offensive weapons, injuries that just come in, they creep in, and you put your faith into them. You think you can get it done, and you want to go back to the well. It's funny. I mean, Chiefs, like I said, even the Chiefs, they bring back Matt Nagy. Like the Patriots bring back Bill O'Brien. Things aren't working necessarily out the same way, but you put your faith in some of the things you think you can develop and you can get right, and it doesn't work out for you.
And you talk about the lack of weapons for both teams, but how the Chiefs still at least have Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, like some guys that they can lean on to get things done. So, a little fun hypothetical here, because the argument kind of that people like to throw around at some points of the Patriots offense is, like Mac Jones couldn't possibly succeed because if you put XYZ on the Patriots offense, how much better are they really doing? So, thought exercise. No, even Travis Kelce, if you put Patrick Mahomes in the Patriots offense the way they entered it this season, how many more wins do you think they have? Or do you think that it's pretty much the same?
I mean, I think you can reasonably argue that Patrick Mahomes is a huge upgrade over Mac Jones, Bailey Zappi, anybody. So, I mean, I do believe that not even just this in Kansas City's offense, that he's raised the level of the players that they have. I do believe that he's a guy who can do all of that with any weaponry. I mean, we saw what he did with Juju Smith-Schuster last year. He would still have Juju in that roster, but also you have two. Hunter Henry is not Travis Kelce. Mike Gesicki is not Travis Kelce, but those are two really good dynamic pass catchers at tight end. They complemented each other well. Obviously, one is more of an all-around guy, and Gesicki is more of a slot player, which is fine. It's perfectly okay. But I do think that you could actually threaten teams downfield with Tyquan Thornton. I know he's been injured as well, but one of the biggest problems that I've seen with the Patriots is that they cannot threaten downfield. They cannot do it. Bailey Zappi and Mac Jones' arm strength is very similar, in my opinion. They function better when it's a play action game where you see maybe a safety come down off the play action and you can just kind of loft it downfield and hope you get someone to come underneath it. Things like that. And one-on-one situations, you take some opportunities there. But defenses, they're not worried about stretching the field. They don't really care. Patrick Mahomes would threaten the field, would threaten downfield. He's even doing that in Kansas City, but they can't get on the same page with their receivers. They cannot do it. And we see receivers every week running into coverage instead of away from it. And Patrick trying to throw away from them getting hit, and they're running into areas where they would get hit, and the confusion there. They haven't been on the same page throwing the ball deep. But a simple fact of the matter is that Patrick would raise the floor and ceiling of the offense, even with the weapons. I think it's good for what? Three wins, probably. So, but even then, Patrick can't overcome some of the weaponry issues, the miscommunications. You add injuries and everything like that. He can't always overcome all that. So I would like to believe that with that defense, again, we're seeing very similar stuff in Kansas City with the defense. It's playing very well. And I would like to think that they'd be above or at around that 500 mark right now.
And there's been a few games for the Pats where legitimately all they needed was one drive, and the defense always says that we're holding offenses under their averages. Like, we're playing good defense. We've only been blown out a couple of times, so it's not like, we're just getting smoked every week.
Absolutely.
But then that brings up an interesting point with the Chiefs, because we've seen for 2 weeks in a row wide receivers directly affecting the outcome of the game, where Mahomes puts on a Superman cape. And even 2 weeks ago, Kelce was in on this, where you just don't have the pass catchers making up for it. And as Giselle famously said, can't throw the ball and catch the ball. So for the Chiefs, is it just the wide receivers that are holding them back? If so, what exactly is going on? Is it really just the chemistry, or are there other things that maybe people aren't focusing on? Or are there other cracks in the armor where, the wide receivers are maybe kind of being scapegoated for some other things that are happening that aren't getting as much attention?
I would say earlier in the season, there was a really two big issues was the run game and the pass catchers. They couldn't run the ball. They really were trying to figure out what their best mode of running was after the bye. They've been good. They've been very good at running the
Yeah.
football.
Like
Effective.
behind the 49ers in EPA or something like that.
Yeah.
They're killing it.
Like they've really figured out, they've leaned into some power concepts, some duo. And we saw obviously with you have Isaiah Pacheco on the field, which probably will not have on Sunday, he adds an explosive element that you can't account for. That drag guys for 5 yards. And then if one guy falls off, he's taking another 10 to 15. And when you have that, it has opened up their play action game. And we see a lot of the problems with the pass catchers is earlier in the season, like I said, when they couldn't run the ball, it was like, okay, you can't run the ball. We're just going to squeeze everything deep. Force you to 5, 6, 7, chunk your way down the field. Any quarterback will eventually make one of those mistakes or a drop here, there, a penalty here and there. But right now, this is a twofold problem. It's mental execution on the wide receiver's part, drops, running the wrong routes, running into coverage, and it's a penalty problem. Their offensive line, inopportune penalties. Juwan Taylor, I believe, has been a very good signing for them in terms of play on the field, but he draws a bunch of penalties.
Yeah.
And before Wanya Morris stepped in at left tackle, Donovan Smith, penalties every single week. Even Creed Humphrey last week was getting penalties, and the week before getting penalties called on him. Like, I argue with some of the penalties he's had called on him because it's Creed. He's typically extremely hands tight, let go if someone's pulling, things like that. He's not really a guy who gets penalized a lot. But that's the two biggest problems can be attributed to the mental errors. That's all it is right now, in my opinion, about what's happening with the Chiefs offense. Because again, you go back to last week, if Kadarius Toney isn't lined up offside, they take the lead in that football game. They might not win it, but they take the lead because Buffalo gets the ball back. But I would challenge anybody to say, what did the Buffalo Bills do in quarters 2, 3, and 4 that would lead you to believe they would go on to win that football game? Not very much. The week before, the drops, like everything. I mean, the Green Bay was a little bit different. I believe Green Bay outplayed the Chiefs handily most of that football game, and then in the end, they had an opportunity to still go down and tie the game if you score the touchdown and get the 2-point conversion. But they got the ball back after a few here and there bounces, and it was a 2-point game, and they go 3 and out. And then, you go back to, and then the Eagles game, Patrick Mahomes drops this ball in a bucket to MVS, and it just drops out of his hand. We have visual evidence, even going back to week 1, where we can squarely put, obviously it's not 100% of the blame because there's an entire football game that gets played. There are plays within the game that you can execute, but we have evidence of drops, of mental errors, of being not on the same page that have directly contributed to some of the losses for the Kansas City Chiefs. And that's honestly, if they have completed catches here and there, we're talking about a 10-3 team, most likely, instead of an 8-5 team.
Before we get into the film, one more question I've got for you. As we talk about like the mental mistakes and everything, I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, Travis Kelce was a part of that, which you don't usually expect.
Yeah.
Now, 34 years old, you expect there's going to be some kind of physical decline for a guy, especially with his target rate, just the nature of the position, how much kind of damage you take working over the middle. What have you seen from him? Like, where has the drop-off been? Where is he still just as dangerous as ever? And in the conversation of everybody loves to compare him and Gronk. And I think people who really study these guys understand they're not the same kind of player. But in that upper echelon of all-time tight ends, where do you think Kelce and Gronk are? And also, why are they different types of players despite being at the same position?
I love this conversation, and a lot of Chiefs fans will disagree with me. That's fine. I have this set 2 ways. The way that I view this, Rob Gronkowski at his peak was the greatest tight end to ever play the game. Legitimately unguardable. It didn't matter what you did. It doesn't matter what you did. Tom Brady threw the ball to him. If he was double covered, if he was triple covered, he found a way to come down with that ball. It did not matter. So again, I say that because it's true. The problem is the longevity. Because of the way he played the position, he was I'm going to hit you. I'm going to do whatever I can to grind this down, probably score if I can. But that broke his body down. Like, he needed to take time off of football. And when he came back, he was still kind of that guy, but he was a much better blocker than he was a receiver as in the past. So again, I will say it, and all the Patriots fans watching this will appreciate it for what it is, because it's true. Gronkowski played the position at the highest point we've ever seen for a very short amount of time. But Travis Kelce, what he has done over the length of his career, will go down as the greatest tight end to ever live, because of the way he sees the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He is a quarterback on the field. He's a quarterback in the huddle with your quarterback. He sees it the exact same way. Everyone's like, how do they have such this great chemistry? It's because they literally see the game the same way. It's I see this player, and that's part of the reason why the Chiefs have had so many receivers or tight ends that have to come in, and it takes time to learn the system. There are so many tweaks on their routes based off of the coverage that they're seeing. You can run, a go, a curl, a slant, an out route, all based off of what the safety or what the slot corner is doing. There's so many different ways to break offs. And what Travis Kelce does is, you hear this year, we've heard it even more than ever about how he freelances. Patrick Mahomes even came out after a game and said he's not supposed to run that route, but I threw it to him because he's open. Like, we see it. And the way that Andy allows them to freelance, even after the play that didn't count, now that is what we're all calling it, against the Bills.
Yeah.
Andy Reid in his press conference earlier this week, he's like, yeah, I see it in practice every day. The freedom that he gives Travis to not only be that player, but to do it on the field is again what allows him to be great, and why he's going to go down as the greatest tight end of all time, in my opinion. And this year specifically, people forgot, he got a deep bone bruise before week one. He didn't even play.
That's right. Yeah.
That one, I think that took so much longer to heal than he wanted it to, obviously, because he was out there week 2 against the Jags and he did not look right. And then we have the ankle slip against the Vikings, where he slips out. He comes back a few, I believe it was a couple snaps into the second half, but those were on the same leg, if I'm not mistaken. Like, those were both on the same leg. So he had injuries this year that he's never dealt with before.
Right.
And I think that took some of his athleticism. Personally, looking at the Bills game, I think this past week was the healthiest he's looked all season. And
yeah.
The way that he moved in and out of his breaks, even after that big catch against the Bills to throw it to Kadarius, he was in and out of that, and he was wide open, and he was looking to maneuver all his way through. If he had a little bit more of an avenue, he scores on that play. I think he looked healthier, and that's the big difference here, is that I think he's getting healthy as the Chiefs are moving into what is currently the postseason. Obviously, only a 1-game difference between them and the Denver Broncos now for the division, so things can get dicey, but I think a lot of people have forgotten that he got hurt early in the season and got hurt again against the Vikings. And those are things he has not really dealt with, specifically when it comes to his ankle flexion and mobility with pain. And that's something he's had to deal with. So I think he's getting healthy at the right time.
Definitely saw that. There was the play where, like, there's a stack look where he goes in and out to get some separation. He's got the one against Bedford where he uses some physicality at the top. And you're like, yeah, no, that's Travis Kelce. That's the guy.
Looking like it.
Exactly, where you think of him against zone, because you got the clips where he talks about, I forget who it was, somebody came up to him after a game this year and was asking him for advice, and he was saying, study the defense and understand how they're trying to play you. And that's where the quarterback's mindset is a good quarterback understands this is what they're trying to do to us, this is how we attack it, so and so. We're going to get more into the X's and O's, so I'm really excited for this. Before we do, quick word from our friends over at FanDuel. We'll be back.
Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action, NFL. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including you got spreads, you get your player props, you got over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/Boston and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
All right, so we mentioned some of the mental errors that are going
Mhm.
on with the Chiefs. So first X's and O's play we're going to see is a bit of an example of that. And when I was looking through the numbers, I saw that you got like Bill Belichick mentioned during the week when he's talking about the offensive line, Creed Humphrey and Joe Tooney, obviously first names that came out of his mouth. But then you also saw, if you look at the numbers, that Trey Smith, who's a really good guard, has been struggling in pass protection. He's like bottom 10 or something like
Mhm.
that in pressure rate allowed at the position. We're going to see an example of that protection getting a little leaky here. Break it down for us, brother.
Yeah, so this is one of the areas where the Bills actually were more aggressive than I've seen in quite a while. They blitzed Patrick a lot, and this is one of the first times I believe that they've done a cross dog blitz. And those who don't know, when you take both of your middle linebackers right here, and you go ahead. Actually, let me just pull up my pen here so that we can
Ooh, okay, let's get
actually,
fancy.
yeah, so we can see what we're talking about. So you've got these two linebackers here, and you want to cross them literally over each other, and that creates confusion on the offensive line. And that's exactly what happens, especially like you said, with a guy like Trey Smith, who has had his own problems with protection this year. He typically likes to turn his body a little bit too far to the inside when he's dealt with pressure in his face. And that's kind of how this ends up turning out. So you get that pressure right there, and he turns. He's unable to get back to that blitz, and really it impacts the defense and obviously, the offensive line. And the problem here was that Travis Kelce pushed off to get separation. Right, he comes over here on the slant right here, and this is where those mental errors again coming in. Like, this is a 2nd and 8. You're trying to get make this 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2, and he's got to pull this down. There's the flag. So you can really get after the Chiefs with stunts. And Trey Smith has been one of the bigger kind of points on that. And when Donovan Smith was in as well, he was a guy who was susceptible to stunts and stuff like that. So I've seen as much Patriots defensive film as a lot of people recently, and they do play a lot more man coverage, and you can stunt them on their, especially when they're less quick front is up. They have more power. They want to really knife into those gaps and stunt across the line. And that's something that the Chiefs are going to have to figure out how to deal with. Obviously, now you even have more communication problems with a rookie stepping in at left tackle who's played well, but pass protection has been the one issue that he's showed. He has a tendency to be late out of his snap, and he tends to overset a little bit. You can take advantage of that with not just cross dog blitzes, but sending late blitzes as well, getting him to overset to like a Josh Uche, who's fast. You can make him do those kind of things. So that's one of the areas that I'm really looking for in this game, is that how the Chiefs adjust and adapt to what the Patriots are going to do, which is take away Travis Kelce and play man coverage.
Right. And the Patriots pass rush especially, it's obviously Matt Judon goes down and they suffer for it. Like, they take a big step back. But once it started to get better, you saw, like against the Buffalo Bills, this was midseason, so a while ago, but you saw they were just tormenting the Bills' protection schemes and getting free rushers. And then last week, you see they had 2 big plays on a creeper pressure where they only sent 4 guys, but the way they do it is you send the slot and then Kyle Duggar at the second level, where it's just a look that defenses aren't used to seeing. And they mentioned that, we figured on a short week they weren't going to prepare for it. Clearly they were right, because again, not often you see a team run something twice and have equal amount of success. So it's going to be interesting to see both how they attack this Chiefs protection scheme and who exactly they attack. But the interesting is, you flip it around, we're going to see on the defensive side of the ball, all everybody's been talking about all week is Spags' scheme. Obviously, Patriots fans are pretty familiar with Spags' defense because he's a big reason that they don't have an undefeated season. But they mentioned how his personnel groupings are so versatile. I mean, again, it's like, now, the more we talk about it, the more you realize the Patriots and the Chiefs schemes are very similar, or like the things that you see from these teams are similar on both sides of the ball. And the Patriots, one of the more aggressive teams. I think that the Chiefs are one of like 3 teams with more unblocked pressures than the Patriots. And we're going to see Trent McDuffie's a huge part of that. Twice as many hits or pressures as the next closest player in his position. Very dangerous coming out of the slot when he rushes. So break this play down for us, because as dangerous as those schemes are, they are not invulnerable.
Absolutely. And the big thing that we like to talk about, especially for Spags, is that he is so good at sending his blitzers. And this is actually Chamari Connor, if I'm not mistaken, as I think right here is Trent No, wait. No, it's not. Never mind. Last year, Trent McDuffie wore 22, so he switched this year. So trying to see all this, but he is in the slot right there. So yeah, Trent McDuffie is one of the best blitzing slot corners in the NFL. And I honestly, I think this is the play that Spags was talking about in his press conference today, where you kind of have to tip your hat to the Bills. They motion into the blitz and run a wheel route with the running back team that scores at the touchdown here. So this is one of those things that if you get Spags in the blitz, you're taking away a defender. But like I said, you're motioning this player over all the way from the right-hand side. So you're adding another receiver to a side that you're taking a defender away from. Sometimes you're going to get lucky, and you can get lucky against Spags. But, he even talked about it. This is a risk-reward defense. We're going to be aggressive. We're going to force quarterbacks to have to make split-second decisions, live with those decisions. And that's what they're going to want to make Bailey Zappi do. They're going to want to make him make this throw, make defending the running back their priority, right? Like, this is one of the areas that the Chiefs have struggled with this season as well, is getting those running backs protected wise. And again, you see where I'm going here. You have another one, an inexperienced defensive player this year, Mike Edwards, who he's played well for them, but this is his first year in the system. He knows what he's doing. But we have the Chamari Connor out there as well. When you don't have your entire safety room out there right now, you're dealing with some injuries there, some sickness, and your Brian Cook's out for however long. This is, again, you're trying to get down here for your coverage, but we just kind of leave this running back coming down the seam because we forgot that we're supposed to pass some of these players off and maybe kind of let the one to the flat go at 2nd and 8, worry about the running back, not necessarily the motion man. So the two areas that the Chiefs really do struggle in terms of guarding and then adjusting to, they do a good job, are the running backs and tight ends. And I'll be honest with you, those are the two areas right now that I would worry from the Patriots. Like those two tight ends we talked about, and Hunter Henry, Mike Gesicki, and Ezekiel Elliott, for everything that was said about him last year. He looked very good against the Steelers, and really the last month he's looked healthy and fresh. And this moment, he's fresh, exactly what the Patriots kind of wanted. They wanted him to be fresh. And when you don't play as much as he did in the last, 5 years for the Cowboys, you're going to have a little bit of rejuvenation. So I would watch out for even, he scored that touchdown up the right-hand sideline against the Steelers. So it's not like this is an impossible thing to see from the Patriots running Ezekiel Elliott out there with different kinds of looks for their combinations. But this is that risk reward that they're living in. And I was right. It was Chamari Connor who blitzed.
There we go.
I trust myself with some of these things. So yeah, it's all that fun and games that sometimes it can be confusing when you're playing in a system with so many moving parts. But at the same time, Spags understands the risk and reward, and more times than not this season, because they're one of the best defenses at not allowing offenses with the explosive play. They have been paying off, and McDuffie or Snead or Connor are getting home on that blitz, and they got beat that time by an alert Josh Allen.
And this is one of those games where I really wish, it hasn't been that long that he's been out, but you really wish you had a Ramondre Stevenson, because Zeke, when they use him as a receiver, it's more underneath. I would love to see this kind of concept, because we've seen it from the Patriots. They ran it with Ramondre his rookie year against the Cowboys. Like, when I saw it, first thing I thought of was they ran it then. They ran this concept last year or 2 years ago against the Bills, because Pierce Strong was running the seam. I remember, because Mac Jones forced it to Nelson Aguilar and he got picked off. But that's a play that we've seen them run before. Yeah. But I question whether or not they have the personnel now, or they'd be comfortable enough to run something like that. And also the design I love, where you get the motion, you snap the ball before he gets across, so you're not really thinking of it as a four-man side, but that's what it ends up playing as. I really like that concept, and we'll see if the Patriots do try to exploit those mismatches, whether it's using a pick like what we saw with Hunter Henry on that Zeke touchdown, whether it's a slip screens where it seems like he gets one play of those popped every week, and he mentioned, patience has been a big part of that. We'll see. And then Mike Gesicki, it's been kind of weird the way that he's been used because his size, he's such a big target.
Yeah.
And we've seen, like, there was the pass that Mahomes had last week to MVS where he's covered. He just puts it on his back shoulder, though. And it's like, well, that's an impossible one to defend. It wasn't caught. But I feel like Gesicki has the kind of size where you could give him more opportunities. I don't think that they've tapped into that as much as they could. But we'll see what happens. Then Hunter Henry, I think he and Zappi have got a bit of a connection. Not as much as he and Mac did, but hopefully this is a week where we'll see it flourish a little bit more. Before we get to the final play, going to send it over to our friends at SeatGeek real quick.
I've been looking for the best deal on Celtics tickets, and with over 28 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app. There are more than 70,000 events every single day on SeatGeek, including concerts, sports festivals, and more. With the NFL, NBA, and NHL seasons in full swing, you don't want to miss out. SeatGeek has your tickets to every game. Plus, artists like Travis Scott are on tour. They put all the tickets across the web in one place to make sure you're getting a good deal. Each ticket is rated on a scale of 1 to 10, so look for the green dots. Green means good and red means bad. Every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee, and SeatGeek is the only site that lets you return your tickets ahead of the event with swaps. So as you know, I always come through for you guys. You can use my code DREAMERSPRO for $20 off tickets at SeatGeek. That's $20 off your first purchase with promo code DREAMERSPRO. Make sure you check the link in the description to download the app.
All right, so it's funny because this is a play where I was going through Travis Kelce's like big plays, and there were 3 that were on sale routes. And I'm just like, yeah, it just, there are some plays where you're gonna get hit by it once a game. You just kind of take the L, move on. It happens. Other guys get paid to. Break this one down for us. And if there's any way that the Patriots can actually stop this, please feel free to tell me because I don't know what the hell you're supposed to do.
All right. So this is one of my favorite plays because it's a variation of their scat chip Y Seattle play, which the entire concept of this is to get that clear out from your X receiver up here at the top. And he's just, again, running deep. He's going to kind of angle it to the inside and then break off to the corner at the top. Travis, again, is running that sail. It's a little bit different because they bend it also to the outside. And even on the play itself, it says eyes around, sell the over. You want to force everybody to believe that you're going to the over route. And then he breaks it back over across the left-hand side. Then you get the running back typically chipping here to the flat. This is their 3-level deep, intermediate, short concept that they love to flood defenses. We see it multiple times a week. On the backside, it's typically a chip here and then out to the flat and then another deep over just, in case you have one of those isn't open and they take all that away. Typically that over is going to be open. And no one's seeing this on my screen, are they?
If there's a drawing, I don't think so.
All right, that's cool. My apologies to that. So I was trying to show you guys, and unfortunately, we can't. It's not even like showing up here. So yeah, typically you have Travis Kelce running that slant, so it's a 3-level on the left side, deep, intermediate, and short. But this one is different because they come out in 12 personnel and then shift to pseudo 22 personnel because Kadarius Toney, as we all know, is a multifaceted weapon. So this looks like 22 now. You've got him as an H-back, and using Kadarius Toney is also one of the keys to this game. Like it just is to the rest of the season for the Chiefs because he brings so much versatility and usage to it. Right here, it's just as an H-back, you're going to fake the handoff. And look at the linebackers. Look at them trigger downhill. You have 3 guys, really 4 guys with the corner on the right-hand side at the bottom of your screen are all up closer to the line of scrimmage. And we know Travis Kelce works with space. And then you get 2 guys that end up flowing with Kadarius Toney, 2 guys over the top with MVS, and at that, it's Travis Kelce by himself because he's selling that over route, and you have 43 right there in the middle of the field. Like, oh crap, I'm out of position, and there's nobody in that left side of the field. So it's so different from a lot of the other things that they do. But adding Kadarius Toney to the backfield condenses the formation itself, and then you add the play action concept off of that, and you're attacking that left-hand side with 3 different concepts. And again, it's hard to know what's coming out of that, especially because the Chiefs have been more efficient and effective in their run game lately, that you do have to respect it. That's what's made their offense in this, when they're clicking, it's what made them a little bit more dangerous. So I apologize not being able to get the writing on there, but which would have been nice for you guys to see. But at the end of the day, it's that 3-level concept out of the play action, and then that 22 personnel look that they bring out. It's just tough to defend when they're clicking.
And is that my guy Dorian Williams trying to chase in the flat? Is that who that?
Yeah, I think so.
Guy.
I think Wanya took him for a ride there. This is again Wanya Morris, left tackle, going to put someone in the dirt right here. See ya.
I loved Wanya too, man. I was really hoping the Pats would get him on like a day 2 kind of situation. I have a lot of fun watching that guy. I had him in so many mock drafts. But one thing I do want to ask you about, because we've already talked about like the eyes, you see how well Kelce sells that route. Like, just impossible to defend when you've got the scheme working in conjunction with the actual players who are executing at a high level. But you mentioned the run game. We didn't really get to talk about that. Yeah. What has been the key to them being so much better? Because if they're obviously not like a run-first team. They're not even top 10, I think, in rushes since their bye week. So it's not like it's a focal point of their offense. But I had it in one of my keys because if the Patriots are going to play man coverage like they always do, I asked Belichick about it, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you never want to play one coverage against Mahomes." I'm like, "Yeah, Bill, but you play man 70% of the time." So I think there's a pattern there. But with the Patriots probably going to play a lot of man coverage, you'd expect the Chiefs to try to run the ball, get those defenders with their backs turned, and get some big gains. So what's been the key to the rejuvenation of KC's running attack?
Yeah, I think it's the fact that they've understood who they are a bit more. Earlier in the season, they kept trying little pitches to try to get their running backs to the edge. That really hasn't been where they've shined because, one, Donovan Smith and Juwan Taylor aren't very good run blockers. They're not. The strength of their offensive line from a run blocking perspective has been the interior. And now they added Wanya Morris. Wanya Morris is a impact run defender, something they had not had at left tackle beforehand. Donovan Smith, again, replacement level left tackle play for the Chiefs up until Wanya Morris came in and was really solidified. Last week, they ran just simple inside zone, but they ran it off the butt of Wanya Morris. So he's anchoring the outside, and basically it allowed McKinnon just kind of sit behind the offensive line, let his blocks unfold, and then he took it in for the end into it for a score. So they've run more duo this year than I think that they ever have before. Nate Tice on the Athletic Football Show talks about how that's been run more than maybe the most efficient run play in the NFL right now, which it absolutely is. Everyone is doing it, especially because the Chiefs are taking advantage of those lighter box looks that they consistently get. When you're running duo, obviously the point is to get as many double teams as you can. But the Chiefs see a lot of kind of offset defensive lines where you get a really good cushion in the middle that allows them to work those doubles to the second level. And they've been able to chunk 6, 7, 8, 9 plus yards off of them. And then the offensive line are getting behind and pushing the running backs as well. So they've stopped so much of the outside zone stuff. They've also incorporated a run that's called wipe. Now that you see the Eagles, the 49ers, a lot of these outside zone teams do it. But what it does is you're looking straight at, say you're running to, basically inside or outside zone to the left. You're going to have that left guard block down on the defensive tackle or the nose guard, whoever it is, and then pull the center around. So it's almost like, it's almost like trap or a single back power in the sense where you're adding an extra offensive lineman. It just makes it so much easier for the Chiefs to get their running backs into space because they need that space. And, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, for everything that he's been to this point in his career, he's not a fast running back. He needs some space to get moving, and his best attribute coming out was manipulating second level defenders behind the line of scrimmage, in my opinion. And he's been able to do that. We saw that against the Bills where he's more patient, but he also was hitting the hole harder than he usually has. He was far often too patient before he comes in last week, and he was effective. And on that, there was a white play that he ran where they bounced it to the outside, and there was Creed got caught up a little bit. So he presses it to the outside, and then he waits for Creed to get there, and he gets 7 out of it because he waits and then cuts it back up, makes a man miss with his footwork, because that's another area where he was really good, is a short area quickness, and then he gets 7 out of it. So they've done a good job of identifying what they're good at inside zone and some of their duo, their power concepts. They're pulling, Trey Smith, they're pulling their offensive linemen, which are always a really good thing when you have, Trey Smith, Creed Humphrey, and Joe Thuney in there. You can just pull these guys whenever you want to. I know that hurts some Patriots fans because Joe's been an all-pro since he joined the
company. I got bad goosebumps. I miss him so much.
I'm sorry, man. But yeah, they've done a really good job of just identifying who they are. And then again, I believe that Wanya Morris has been an impact run blocker since he's been in there.
Wanya Morris, Joe Thuney, just guys that I love for the Patriots, getting it done for the Chiefs. You hate to hear it if you're on this side of the conversation. All right, before I get you out of here, though, got to put you on the spot a little bit. If the Chiefs win, what happened? If the Pats win, what happened?
All right. Well, if the Chiefs win, this could be any number of things, to be very honest with you. It's because they stuck with their game plan. They ran the ball efficiently. That's the big thing for this offense. You will go back to the postseason run they made. They were running the ball on just about anybody. And because, again, they're getting the favorable looks. Because you have Patrick, you're going to see more light boxes. You have to be able to take advantage of them and force defenses to maybe bring a safety or a slot corner in, or bring in an extra linebacker. And then you can really start to mess with communication and play action. And that's another thing that we've seen from the Chiefs. We see Patrick running more under center play action a little bit lately, which is, I said it from the very start. They desperately need more under center play action, because out of shotgun, Patrick's it's one of the weakest points of Patrick Mahomes, and I can't say it. There's no mesh point on his play action. He just kind of, I'm going to throw the ball. I'm going to throw the ball. I'm just
they used to run it like it felt like every drop back that wasn't just a pure drop back had some play action element. It's just,
So it's helped them force linebackers to have to look at the football a little bit longer than usual, and that's, again, it's helped them. So I think efficiency in the run game, and then the Chiefs just continuing to do what they've done, because they've moved the ball. Like, even just against the Bills, a fluky interception in the first drive where they were just moving down the field, and then Rashee Rice has a fumble later. There's just turnovers and drops and execution. If the Chiefs win, they executed on offense in this game, and their defense has done what it's done all season. Get pressure, force quarterbacks to have to think on their feet, and eventually get them into second and long. Because Spags is, I said this on the RGR channel all the time, is like, Spags is like, okay, you got 5, 6, 7 yards on a run there, go ahead. Eventually, we're going to get a 0 or a 1 yard gain, and then you're mine. Like, that's what this is. This is Spags waiting until he gets a second and long or a third and long situation.
To that point, before you get to what happens at the Pats win, because another thing I noticed was they're really bad as a run defense. Like, I think I had them since the bye. It's like they're last in EPA per play, positive EPA rate allowed. And it seems like that's what it is, where a lot of these modern defenses are like, yeah, you can run it on us if you want, but we're not going to give up explosive plays. But there are some offense that are like, okay, we're not trying to throw deep. Like, we'll run on y'all game if you let us. So I know you're going to get into the Pats, but is that really the strategy? Is it just that Spags is like, I don't really care if you run the ball well, because you're just not going to be able to pass on us?
Yeah, even over the last, 5, ever since Spags came in as the defensive coordinator, you've been able to run in the Chiefs defense. Earlier in the season, it was better. I thought that their defensive tackle play had been better up until the last 3 or 4 weeks, and it's kind of gone the opposite way. And they haven't really, also, it can't be understated how their linebacker injuries have not helped their run defense. You didn't have, really, their run defense was good when Nick Bolton and Drew Tranquill and Willie Gay and Leo Chenal were all healthy and then rotating. Like, that's where it was. But they were forced to have Leo Chenal more on the field, or just Drew Tranquill, who, again, isn't the greatest run defender in the world. He bulked up this year to get better at it. And it's gotten a little bit better, but he's still not a great run defender. And you didn't have Nick Bolton, whose best attribute is getting downhill and stuffing
Yeah.
people in the run. So I think we're going to see this week those guys back on the field together, which will help the run defense together. And that's what Spags, really why they brought Drew Tranquil in too, to help solidify their 4 linebacker crew, because those 4 together, when they're all playing and rotating in and out, it makes everything go. Again, go back to earlier in the season when they were healthy. The run defense was far better than it is now, and that's really attributed to how their defense tackles are have to take more on. And Derek Nottie, he's getting older. He's a good run defender, but you're asking him to do a lot more when you don't have Nick Bolton on the field. And even last week against the Bills, he wasn't fully up to speed yet. His legs aren't underneath him. He'll continue to get that back too. So yeah, you can run, especially for a team like the Green Bay Packers, who said, yes, we're going to run the ball. And you're really not going to stop it very much. And then you're going to lose Drew Tranquil anyway. So
don't mess with that McVay tree, because they will run as much as you let them. Don't play no games. All right, so run game, we could probably check that one off. So what else has to go right if the Patriots are going to disappoint Team Tank and stack a couple wins together in this one?
They get 3 turnovers from the Kansas City Chiefs because they have been unable to execute a full 4 quarters of football on offense all season, essentially, except maybe you can argue against the Los Angeles Chargers and maybe the Chicago Bears. Like those are the 2 teams where they've executed all game long. Other than that, there have been opportunities to get multiple turnovers from the Chiefs. They just turned the ball over twice against the Bills. Like it's an execution, again, it's an execution-based team. And if they execute, they hit a good play, they typically keep going. And if they don't, you can get those turnovers on the Chiefs offense. And if they don't come locked in like they usually do this season, my phrasing, you can get them. So it comes to running the football again, continuing to run the ball. Honestly, you might just come out there and hand it off on all 3 downs, especially because you can run on them. So it's there, and it's getting those turnovers, and the Chiefs continue to not execute. This is a very good Patriots defense. But make no bones about it. Like, this is not some team that is really, really bad because their offense and defense and special teams are all terrible. This defense is really good. They are well coached. They tackle very well, and it's going to take the Chiefs' execution A game in this football game to put up enough points to win.
Fingers crossed for an entertaining game, but also for a Patriots loss. It's a weird thing to say on this channel, but that's just where we're at this season. Dan, thank you so much for your time, brother. I appreciate it. Had a blast. You're going to be back on here again. I will find whatever reason I need to get you back on. Please let the people know where they can find you, what great work you got coming down the pipeline. Plug away, my friend.
I appreciate that so much, man. I always have fun talking to you. So getting to come back on at some point in the future would just be an absolute treat. Earlier this week, I did a Kadarius Toney breakdown of his usage against the Buffalo Bills for the RGR football channel. It's YouTube page. You guys can find it at rgrfootball.com. Every Wednesday, my film rooms go up. You can find me on Twitter, or X as they call it now. I'm always going to say Twitter. I'm just always going to. At InHarmsWay19. And then again, I do weekly videos for Football Guys on their YouTube page. Football Guys, you can just search Football Guys on YouTube page. It comes up every every Saturday. I do 4 must-start players with stats, film breakdown. And then again, a lot of my draft content right now is on Twitter. And then once the season's over, it's going to be on RGR and then NFL 33, where we'll have multiple feature pieces and player rankings, breakdowns, all that fun stuff.
Busy man, you do great work. Definitely going to have you on to talk draft. Now
Absolutely.
we got in. There we go. Thank you for joining us, brother. Thank you all so much for watching. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Enjoy some Thursday night.